Hello and welcome again to Redacted Nuisance, that 10 to 15 minutes on Tinternet that is recorded out of order apparently. I've just done, this is episode 28 and I apparently just did episode 29. Who knew that I had such little sense of time and understanding of the concept? Hi, I'm Dr. J, use they as a pronoun. I identify as queer and my gender is transgressive non-binary genderqueer. Or just queer, or just non-binary. This is also called redacted nuisance, not queer nuisance, simply to avoid being censored. Because I know that if this is openly LGBTQ, it will be hidden on a number of things. That is why there are no rainbows. That is why I tend not to put the LGBTQ as a tag. I probably have forgotten to do tags because the production values of this are minimal. I record this in one take, don't listen back to it, save it, export it as a MPEG and post it, and then schedule it for being posted out later. I get to hear it when you do, probably several weeks after I've recorded it, and go, oh wow, I was on a roll. But why did I go down that path? That's often, or my voice squeaks, or something like this. I'm going to read you a draft of a piece that might come out via work, so I'm being a little bit, I won't say naughty, I'm just being a little bit, I'm trying a draft out here to see how it sounds. This does need a little bit of rewriting. So this is a late draft. It's a version, it's probably in the tens of drafts, and it is close to publication. It's got a little bit of tweaking. But I'm putting it up here because I feel with the current discourse, that political discourse that's going on, this is a necessary thing to get out. And while it might take me another 2 to 3 months to get the editing done, I feel it's worth getting a decent-ish version out. And when I post up when the slightly better, slightly more edited, slightly more reworked version comes out, it's going to be interesting to hear how that sounds and reads. Also, to any members of my family listening to this, this is my subjective experience of the world. I grew up racist, and does that define me now? I grew up racist. Not with a capital R, not hating people based on their race, more lowercase r, racist, having an opinion on everyone based on their race. This was systemic, and everywhere I grew up, with the story told to me that I was white, Pākehā, and that was the best to be. This came from every piece of information I received about religion, culture, art, all in mainstream media and even at school. It wasn't just my whiteness. It was my background, the country that I could trace myself back to. So that English, Scottish, Irish blend of whiteness was the right thing to be. My people were untainted in the 8 generations that we counted in my homeland. We recounted this with pride when we talked about our ancestry in class. Everyone good was from a similar background, white, Protestant, and British. We were taught how our British ancestors had been honourable and signed a treaty and treated the Maori properly, not at all like what happened in other colonies and First Nations people in Australia and Canada. We learnt Maori songs and dances and were told it was a culture dying out because Maori didn't continue it due to urbanisation. Ignoring the impact of racist policies stopping language being used, the Maori land wars, the land confiscations, and the way Maori were treated by police and incarcerated by the system. Everyone else was lesser. What could we expect from them? They didn't grow up with the same values. They don't think like us, and they don't value the same things. They have less respect for the systems, the law, and society. There was an ongoing commentary reinforcing this viewpoint from people who would never consider themselves to be racist. It was about stereotyping people, a quick judgment based on their clothing, their surname, their accent, as well as the race they thought they might be. That the Chinese takeaways was run by a Vietnamese family never worried us. They were the same. The faith community I grew up in continued this narrative. They always needed our help. They would burn in hell if we did not tell them the good news. They needed us to travel to their country to tell them how to live. Without us, they would not have clothes that covered them properly. They would not know how to grow useful crops. Their houses would not be like ours. When they came and lived amongst us, they could not understand our cultures. So they would have their own services and their own communities. They had a simpler faith. Even the children's books told me they were lesser. Enid Blyton, The Jungle Doctor, The Water Babies, all reinforced that my white was the right thing to be. As we were not South African, this was not apartheid, and so we were not capital R racist. I cannot deny my education and indoctrination. This has formed strong links in my brain which cannot be easily undone. This bias is so deep that it is unconscious. It passes through me faster than conscious thought. How could I ever change? I spent a long time denying there was a problem. When the problem is the room you are living in, you can't conceive of it. I tried to say I was colourblind, that I could ignore any stereotyping that raced through my mind. This allowed me to ignore the impact of race on any interaction, as if this was the way to understand the systems I had grown up in and the advantages I had undeservedly been given. I started to look back and consider what would have been different if I had grown up with those 8 generations of being in a country being more integrated. How having something like a non-English name would have played out across the years. How having a name to explain how to pronounce a name overladen with vowels would have meant more checks, more assumptions, and would have added another layer of struggle. I stopped and listened to what is happening inside my head. That first thought, that first reaction to someone was so ingrained during my formative years, the neural pathways have survived 2 head injuries. The thought arises so fast it doesn't even feel like it touches the conscious parts of my mind. Feeling guilt about this is not going to change anything. Castigating myself in an endless grief for a way of thinking that is as me as the way I learnt to form a smile is not going to help. I cannot control this first thought. What I can control is the second thought. I let that first wave of thought go past and adjust my thinking. Who is this person I'm talking to? What do I like about them? And how similar we are? I connect with the person. Celebrate their similarities to me and the differences. What can I learn from them? How can we empathize with each other? I can make the thoughts about they into thoughts about us. What I can control is that first action. What do I do next? Do I ask a question to understand and empathize more with them? Do I give up space to them? Do I support and amplify their voice using any advantage I might have been given in this situation? Do I try and dismantle the system that gives me advantages? Do I call out the ways the system disadvantages others? I cannot change how I grew up. I can change the space into which I am now growing. So I'm actually curious to see how that comes out in the edit. There's a couple of places that I've been asked to move paragraphs and rework and expand on or contract on bits and pieces. So yeah, there's a few interesting things in there. But I thought, given the way that everyone is discussing race, I want to very clearly state I am not a flag nonce. I am not a Brexiter. I am not somebody who considers migration a problem. I'm a migrant in this country. I might have a passport that let me walk straight on in, but I'm a migrant here. I did not grow up here. If you're talking about migrants, you're talking about me. Do I have a problem with the level of migration? No. I think there is a problem with the way that migration has been presented and that people have been talked to. There are people whose lives were messed up by Thatcher, that were messed up by this capitalist society that we're in, that's quite frankly, and I can understand why, they see no future. They are being exploited by billionaires, and I was going to say millionaires, but basically billionaires, for their own ends, for nefarious ends. I mean, Elon Musk is not a good person. Neither is Mark Zuckerberg, neither is Bill Gates. In fact, none of the fucking billionaires are good people. And to quote Billie Eilish, why the fuck are you a billionaire? You could solve so much of the world's problems just by funding some of the shit that is needed. And that would stop some of the racism, that would stop this oppression that is going on, that would stop the suppression of the working class and setting the working class against otherness. And it is about seeing, like I said, it's about changing the stories of them into stories of us. That's the thing that I did inside my head that I want society to do.